My name's Fiona Patten, and I'm the convener of the Australian Sex Party, which comes out of an industry group called the Eros Association. So for the last 20 years, I've been lobbying state and federal governments for sensible law reform around censorship and around sex education, and not terribly successfully, frankly. And the internet filter was kind of the final straw, and we thought, well, if we can't seem to get sensible law reform from the outside, we need to get people on the inside. So we'll be running for Senate seats at the next election. You know, I was really amazed because, I mean, frankly, yes, we do use that word sex. I was amazed that the media actually took it seriously, that we got really serious comment. We had, like, in the first week, I think we had like 30,000 articles on the net around the world. It seemed to be a lot coming from Turkey. I'm not quite sure why, but, you know. But I was actually amazed that, you know, like ABC National did a program on us, you know, certainly Triple J, but certainly sort of the Today Show. We actually kind of got, once they got past giggling about the word sex, they were sort of, okay, so it's about gender equality, it's about sex discrimination, it's about sex education, it's about sexual health, it's about overseas aid for you know, Planned Parenthood. So it was a whole range of things, and much to my delight, people kind of did get that. Look, I think there was two things. I mean, it's sort of like yelling sex into a crowded theatre, and it's now we've got your attention.
This is what we are.
This is what we are, and this is what we do. That's right. I think also, like, there's something a bit cheeky about having the Australian Sex Party next to the Christian Democrats and the Australian Liberals and Australian Labor on the ballot ticket. And I do think that some people who are possibly not politically engaged are going to go, sex, yes. You know, so I don't apologise for that. But I do think that we can have a voice in there, and you've got people like Senator Fielding, and you've got some very conservative people like Senator Conroy. I mean, Prime Minister Rudd, all very socially conservative people who are starting to set an agenda that is not in line with where Australians are today.
No.
I have never found a politician who can say sex without giggling.
Oh, really?
Or without going red, you know, they kind of go, ooh, sex.
Well, that's the problem.
And
they're
that's
running,
the problem.
They're running the country and they can't talk about sex.
Exactly.
Such a bad word.
That's right. And so there's always this sort of negative connotation on sex, which is why we have so much trouble getting sex education in.
At schools.
Why?
This is what kids need. The reason kids are having problems, the reason HIV and AIDS is because there's no education.
That's
Nobody
right.
knows. I think kids from the age of 11, 12 need to be educated.
And we're saying that kids are being bombarded by sex. Now, you know, all right, if you think Britney Spears is sexy, maybe they are being bombarded by sex. But yes, there is a lot more there's a lot more media out there for kids now than there was 10 years ago, and especially 20 years ago. So they are getting a lot more information coming at them.
But the wrong information.
That's right. So in that mix, there needs to be some good, honest information. And, you know, like the filter, which is, you're quite right, is going to ban inappropriate material to children at that first level. Now, that will ban sex education. There is no doubt that filter is going to be able to discern between playboy.com and, you know, familyplanning.com. So they are going to be getting misinformation. They're going to go back to getting their information from the, you know, magazines behind their dad's toilet. You know, and being seen as, you know, as MTV becomes like the way to act and how to respond sexually, which is not, you know, okay, that's fantasy. You know, the same way as, you know, I don't want kids getting their information from Debbie Does Dallas either. You know, it's fantasy. It's fun, but it's fantasy. You know, we need good, honest information in the mix as well.
Particularly?
I unfortunately, I've been around politics for an awfully long time, so I'm reasonably cynical about this. And I think, okay, what deal did the Labor government do with groups like the Australian Christian Lobby? What deal did they do, or Family First? So why? I mean, why is Conroy even sticking with this? You know, he could have walked away from this and said a long time ago, and kept his dignity. You know, but he's stuck with it, and I feel that it is a crusade. And you look at the Australian Christian Lobby website; they have sent over 10,000 letters to members of Parliament promoting the filter. I'm sorry to say that, you know, porn.com, the customers of porn.com probably haven't. So because sex is still a private thing, and that's fine. So they're not saying I want my porn, and they're not writing to Kevin Rudd saying,
So they're taking the one side. So
they're getting one side, and hopefully rallies like today do show that other side, that there is a concern out there. I mean, I think you look at the polling. 90% of Australians do not support this, but that's
too lazy to do anything about it.
That's right. Unfortunately,
it's private.
and Senator Fielding holds the balance of power in Parliament at the moment. So if they want to get other legislation through, they need him, and they will do what they need. And the porn industry is always a great scapegoat. It is subversive. I'm not sure that that's necessarily, one of their main objectives. I think one of their main objectives is to be seen to doing something, And we find it in Australia. Australia has the strictest censorship systems out of the whole English-speaking world. Yeah. And we find that what's allowed in a magazine is much more relaxed to what's allowed in a film. What's allowed in a film is much more relaxed to what's allowed in a computer game. And now it's this sort of Luddite mentality that the more the technology gets away from this, the more we have to control it. And that doesn't work. I think we start with the first part of that question. They're your children.
Yeah, exactly. Educate them.
Do you let them go out on the streets at night on their own? Probably not. Do you give them the keys to the car or the liquor cabinet? Probably not.
But they still do that. But they still get there.
And so we try and educate them about the dangers of going out on the street alone. We can't be with them 100% of the time, so we educate them about that. Frankly, there's not actually a lot of pedophiles on an adult sex site because pedophiles are not interested in adults. So you're more likely to find them in MySpace or on some of the children's sites. Again, I would be spending that $43 million on educating parents and children about it. The same as we have a lot of alcohol education campaigns. We've used education successfully. We have a reasonably low rate of teen pregnancy in Australia. Now that is to do with our education. I think we could do a lot better, but education has always been the key. Prohibition has never been the answer.
It's not like the alcohol ban years and years ago. People still drank, but just illegally rather than legally.
And dangerously.
And it's worse. Because it's not legal, so they're like, well, we might as well do lots of it. Or
Look, I sympathise with parents who feel that they don't understand their computer the same way as their child does, and they feel that their child can get around them. But we need to give them the confidence that that's actually not the case. And if you lock the alcohol in the liquor cabinet and you say to your child, do not go into that cabinet, do not drink it. So you do the same with the computer. I've put the filter on, do not turn the filter off. I don't see it as any different. And if your child does turn the filter off or does break it, well, then they're breaching your trust. And I think that's something that, it's parenting 101, that's right. But kids will do bad things.
Why don't we just put $43 million into making a program for those parents who do want it, just a program investing in their own personal computers and things like that,
There are already, WebShield, for example, provides an ISP-filtered service. Now, if you as a parent want an ISP-based filter service, you can get it today, and you can opt into it. So that's what I think, if people want an ISP-based filter, go and sign up today, but don't force it on the rest of us who don't want it. Because 0.001% of Australians might want it and feel, uncomfortable and overwhelmed by the internet.
Yeah.